Welcome to the Unstoppable Joy Podcast, the show where faith meets functional medicine and healing runs deeper than surface level fixes. I'm your host, Kathryn McAdam, a board-certified family nurse practitioner, functional medicine provider, speaker, best-selling author, and co-creator of the Empowered Method. After walking through trauma, burnout, and homelessness, I had gained over 70 pounds. It wasn't until I discovered that true healing isn't just about diet and labs. It's about aligning your body with biblical truth and reclaiming your divine design. Now I help Christians just like myself to restore energy, rebalance hormones, and heal their gut so that they can step boldly into their God-given calling, body, mind, and spirit. Here you'll find root cause strategies, powerful testimonies, biblical insight, and a whole lot of joy, because your healing isn't just about you. It's about the legacy you're called to carry. And joy isn't a side effect. It's a strategy, and it's time to take it back. So let's get started. I just love hearing stories of people and how God shows up in their lives and in their health journey so powerfully and in unexpected ways. And today's guest is someone whose story will inspire you to trust God, even with the impossible. Susan Gladstein is a board-certified health coach, functional nutrition specialist, retired Air Force veteran, and the host of Faith Over Pharma podcast. She's walked through her own health struggles and seen God redeem them for His glory. And today's episode, Susan is going to share with us the miraculous journey that she and her husband experienced while God led them down a path they never thought they'd walk again, the path of a vasectomy reversal. From undeniable confirmations to miraculous provision, their story is one of faith, perseverance, and learning to trust God's design for both health and family. I know this conversation is going to encourage us deeply. And so let's jump right in. Hi, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
It's just so nice to catch up with you again. I know I was on your podcast not too long ago, and I'm in awe every time I hear a story of how God intervenes. When we come against obstacles in our life, it is an opportunity for God to show off big. Take us back to the moment when you first sensed that God was asking you to consider this vasectomy reversal.
Okay, thank you. So when my husband and I met, we had kids of our own from previous marriages. My kids were 2 and 5 at the time, and his were 8, 9, and 11. We felt like 5 kids enough. So I drove to have his vasectomy, and that was the end of that. About 9 years into our marriage, I started feeling like I wasn't quite done. I always joke that about the time my kids stopped needing me, I felt like I needed to start all over again. I was hardcore researching adoption. I really thought that that was the way to go. There were so many kids out there that needed families. I just thought this was the way to go. And my husband was deployed at the time. I said, hey, there's these stories of these families, these kids who their adoptive families didn't want them anymore for various reasons. So they were up for adoption. And I was broken over this. I had gone through a lot of healing and coming to know the Lord. And I had decided that I was a kid lady, kind of like a cat lady, but with kids. So I just aspired to have all of these kids. I had sponsored some kids through Compassion International as pen pals, and I was working in the 5-year-old class at church and had all these kids. I just wanted to love on children, and I felt like I had this gift to love on kids. They're just my thing. When I was in high school, I was the one that was babysitting instead of out partying with my friends. Like I just loved being with kids. And so I told my husband, why don't we adopt? Like, here's the process that I've been researching. This is how much it costs. His response was, wouldn't it be cheaper if we had one of our own? And it never had occurred to me. I didn't even know a vasectomy reversal was a thing. So, being the researcher I am, I dove into Google and found this doctor whose website was like, hallelujah. We booked a call with him as soon as my husband got home from his deployment. We both felt this stirring in our hearts at the same time about having more kids, which we knew had to be from the Lord because it wouldn't have otherwise been something. I mean, it really did come out of the blue and for both of us at the same time. So we have this consultation with this amazing doctor. At the time, my husband was a police officer trying to get into the fire department. We were living 100 miles apart and balancing two households, managing a blended family, kids, jobs, full-time jobs, plus our military jobs. It was a lot. And we had this consult with this doctor. On his website, there was a photograph of a firefighter with a baby. And I just burst into tears because I don't know what I felt like it was a symbol of God showing me this was not only the doctor but that my husband was also going to become a firefighter. And he had been applying for 15 years to become a firefighter. And so we have this consult with the doctor. He's world renowned. Everybody in the world goes to him. He's been doing them for 40 plus years, invented tools used in all surgeries, wrote textbooks. Like, he is the guy. We have this consult with him. It's amazing. We're like, yes, definitely the guy. And 10 days later, they call us and say, hey, we had a cancellation. And would you guys want this opening? It's in 10 days. In theory, this was all nice, but now that the reality was setting in, I had no idea how we would pay for it. Was the next question. Like, yeah, sure, we want to do it. The timing couldn't have been more perfect as far as my husband's time off work. He was still in some downtime from his deployment, so he wasn't back at the police station. The stars were totally, and I was standing outside our accountant's office getting information that we had actually, for the first time in years, we're going to get a refund on our taxes. And when we got the phone call from the doctor's office, we said, okay, well, how much is that going to cost? The amount that they told us it would cost us to get the surgery in 10 days was the exact amount that we got in our tax refund. We
Wow.
booked the surgery,
Talk
drove
about
down,
confirmation.
yes, drove down to Tucson, had the surgery 10 days later. In his recovery, my husband was still trying to apply for the fire department. They always told him he sounded too much like a cop in his interviews. The suggestion was to pair him with a guy on the fire department who used to be a cop but was now a firefighter to help him transition his language so he sounded less cop-like and more firefighter-like for an interview. Somehow they got to talking about the reversal because it was still new. The guy he got paired up with, who was a former cop, said, oh yeah, did you go down to Dr. Mark's in Tucson? My picture's on his website. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, the one guy in the entire Phoenix Fire Department that you got paired up with to do an interview prep with is the guy that I saw on the website that made me know that this was the guy to go to. Like, that couldn't be anything but God, right?
Wow. Yeah. The hair on my arm is standing up. That's crazy. But when you're in God's will and seeking Him and wanting direction and confirmation, what a gift to have that peace. Like, oh my gosh, this is the way we are supposed to go. Tell me more.
Well,
What are the biggest emotional and physical challenges that you faced during this time? And how did your
so
faith play a part?
yeah, so the whole process had been so easy and miraculous and wonderful. And I thought for sure I was just going to get pregnant right away. Like, neither of us had trouble with our other kids. And our doctor had him do analysis every 4 weeks post-surgery just to determine if there was any inflammation. And the first analysis was like, okay, it looks like the surgery worked. It's not great quality or anything, but that's to be expected. And at our 8 week, it was zero. There was absolutely nothing there. And I was devastated because I thought, here the Lord has opened up all these things, planned all these things, and now it's zero. And the doctor was not at all concerned about it. He was like, this is very typical. It's just inflammation. We'll put you on an anti-inflammatory protocol and it'll be fine by your 12 weeks. Okay, we'll trust you. You're the guy, right? So my husband did all the things suggested, and I will say he had a really good baseline of health going into it and good healthy habits. We followed everything, and by the 12 weeks, the numbers were astronomical, fantastic,
Mm.
super great. And still month by month goes by and I don't get pregnant. So then I start thinking, well, I'm 38, I'm almost 40. Everybody's trying to tell me that I'm too old. There must be something wrong with me. I have labs done, everything is considered normal. They just want us to go in and do IUI or IVF. And Then I noticed that I was going to have to deploy to the Middle East for 6 months. And it was one of these things that, well, if I'm pregnant, I'm not going to be going on this deployment. I got a positive pregnancy test and I thought, oh, this is it. I'm not going on the deployment. This is amazing, so wonderful. And on my birthday, I started my period and
Oh,
was devastated because then it was like all these other things. So I called the doctor's office and they're like, we'll do blood work just to make sure and test everything. Turns out I was never actually pregnant. So they told me I just must have had a false positive test. So then it was like this whole come to Jesus meeting where it's like, well, what do we do? Do we stop trying and go on this deployment? Or do we just throw caution to the wind and see how it shakes out? And I really felt like the Lord was telling me I needed to go on the deployment, and I did not want to. That
mm,
meant putting the one thing that I probably had never wanted anything more in my life than to have this baby on hold for
mm,
6 months plus. I cried out to the Lord. I was angry. I told him, why did you lead us down this whole path just to give me this false hope and then take it all away and then tell me that I need to wait? And in my anger and sobbing in my kitchen, I heard the Lord speak to me. And he said, do you not trust me? Look at all I have done. And I, in that moment, said, yes, you have done a ton, and your plans are always better than my own. And I'm going to trust you, and I'm going to step out in faith and go on this deployment. I don't know what the intention of any of that is, but I'm going to do it. Fast forward, a lot of heartache and anger. I was gearing up to leave for my deployment. My grandfather passed away. My stepdad, who basically raised me, passed away. And their funerals, one was Friday, one was Saturday, and I left on Sunday for 6 months. In an already angered situation, only to have two of my earthly father figures taken from me that I couldn't even go to my grandfather's funeral. He was in Texas and it just didn't work out. I left in January of 2019 after having an adverse reaction to the anthrax vaccine that threatened my health. I was able to sort of detox, metals detox, and be healed of it, thankfully, completely healed. But it kind of led me on this whole path of understanding holistic stuff and a real mental and spiritual battle of unpeeling the layers of things that I never dealt with my father's suicide when I was 14 and all the things. And I just made a pact that, like, I don't know what the plans are, but they've got to be great because this is absolutely terrible. And every day was a fight to stay positive. And I really just wanted to crawl in bed and eat bonbons every day. But I started practicing gratitude for the first time in my life, and I was thankful for everything. I got to this weird, kind of fun game where I would ask people that I was deployed with to play along on Thursdays. It's Thankful Thursday. What are three things you're thankful for? Because I had read that if you focus on three new things you're thankful for each and every day, you can actually change your brain chemistry to be more positive. I was amazed at how many people couldn't think of a single thing they were thankful for. I would say, well, how about today we be thankful for that we work in an air-conditioned building? The Middle East was literally the worst place I've ever been weather-wise. I mean, it was like 120, 122 degrees with 90% humidity, literally the worst. So let's just be thankful for air conditioning today, if you got nothing else, right? And so we started practicing that attitude of gratitude. Every single day, I listened to the song Thy Will Be Done. And it was like my anthem that I would cry out over my life. It really clung to Jeremiah 29:11, that his plans were to prosper me, to have hope for the future, and all of the things because I didn't believe it in the moment. I came back from my deployment and thought I'd get pregnant right away, and it didn't. And I still was questioning God because he had worked out all of these things so miraculously, so wonderfully. So then I decided, well, we're going to go through these fertility treatments because obviously I'm going to be 40 and there's a problem there. And I went to a fertility doctor. They said, okay, we're going to do IUI. They put me on meds. And my husband was on another deployment, got stuck in Afghanistan trying to come home. This was in the beginning of 2020 now. So it's been 2 years since his reversal. I'm grasping at straws because I wanted a baby yesterday. It didn't happen. We go through these, IUI, we missed the window, but the meds made me so sick. We gave it one more shot. It failed. Then it came to the point where I was like, why am I trying to play God in all of this? I've been on this holistic path. The meds made me sick, and I don't really even want to take ibuprofen anymore. So why am I taking all of these meds to spike my body in unnatural ways? And I just was like, you know what? Let's just trust the Lord and whatever his timing is, because I know he's good, his timing is perfect, and his plans are better for us. And so we were like, okay, no more treatments, no more nothing. Then the COVID lockdowns happen. And the fertility doctor calls us and says, we're not doing any treatments. And we're like, good, we didn't want to come see you anyway. Like, we'd already made up our mind that this was just going to be the thing. Because of the shutdown, I worked at the Air Force Base at the time and they didn't know what to do with us. So I was just home and I started riding my bike every day. Found out I really liked that. I hadn't felt so euphoric since I was a kid. And I know I was vitamin D deficient. In typical God fashion with a mic drop, that next month I had a positive test. In the middle of the world's chaos, I got the greatest gift in trusting the Lord. And it was around Easter. I had a dream that I was pregnant, and then I took a test and I was pregnant. So at the end of 2020, at 40, I gave birth to our little miracle, Emma, whose name means that my God has answered. She really was an answer to prayers, years of trust and faith. My goodness, if she is not just the greatest gift. And at 40, when everybody said it wasn't possible.
Wow, that's amazing. What a story of that tumultuous time of your faith being tested. It's like, did I really hear God right? What, but you had so many confirmations in the beginning that probably helped you to like, okay, I know this can't just be a coincidence. There's no coincidence in God's kingdom. He led you down this path. And then to finally be holding your baby, what were the emotions going through your body and your husband as you held your miracle?
I think when we feel like we've heard from God and then the timing isn't the way that we want it to be, I just like literally with every inch of my being had to keep reminding myself that his timing is always perfect, even when it doesn't align with our own. And I will tell you that in hindsight, I couldn't be more thankful for the way that the timing worked out because the world was shut down and I couldn't go to work in my first trimester, which I was super like high speed, full throttle ahead, never took rest days. I was working out and in probably the best shape of my life coming off of my deployment. But I had created all these healthy foundations in that 2 year wait that now I wouldn't trade that wait for anything because it made me a better wife. It made me a better mom. It grew me spiritually in ways that I always think we hear from the Lord clearest in our darkest times. For me, that was most true. I felt the closest to him when, I mean, it's easy when things are great just to be like, yeah, thanks for that, Lord, whatever. But when you're in desperation for something that you want so badly, to really lean on that. I had nothing else. I was in the Middle East. Everybody that I loved, their lives were continuing while mine was a standstill. I didn't know what the plan or purpose was in that, but I wasn't going to wallow and sit in my bed and eat bonbons like I wanted to. I wanted to use the time with intention. Looking back, it was the greatest, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. It was a constant reminder that God's timing is always perfect, even if it doesn't align with our own.
Yeah, that's just so encouraging because I've been there too, where I'm praying for things and they don't seem to be happening. And I'm like, Lord, I'm trusting you, but it's so hard to trust when I don't see physically things happening around. Somebody said the other day that the blessing is in the trial. When you're telling me the story, that's what I'm thinking. The blessing is in the trial. Talks about consider it pure joy whenever you face trials of many kinds, because the testing of your faith develops perseverance, and perseverance hope, and hope faith. And that's just the epitome of your story, right? It's that time where you wouldn't trade that hard time for anything because it gives you such a depth of your trust and your understanding of who God is and his goodness that you couldn't find out any other way.
No. Yeah, and in that time we were able to pay off like $60,000 worth of debt, and we were actually set up to where we bought what I considered my dream home. The way that all worked out at the same time was completely miraculous. We moved into our home 3 weeks before she was born, and none of that would have happened had I not stepped out in faith and followed that his timing was going to be perfect. And still to this day, I mean, when we were able to give wildly beyond I could ever imagine in the sense of the finances, it didn't make any sense. I don't know how the money stretched in the way that it did because we were still maintaining two households and all the things. So it took a lot just to say, you know, your timing is perfect. Your timing is perfect. And I guess I just had to continually say that before I could actually believe that it was true.
Yeah. The practice of gratitude rewires your brain. It helps you trust God. When you have that positive mindset, like something good is going to happen to me today, and gratitude, knowing that I don't have to worry about today. I don't have to worry about this day because it's in God's hands, and He has already given me all this that I'm so grateful for. It changes the trajectory of your life.
It's so true. Whatever you focus on is what you see. I always use the analogy of you go to buy a new car and all of a sudden you see that car everywhere. It's the same thing
Mhm.
with gratitude. I like to call them God winks. We miss them if we're busy and caught up in the world. But if you're paying attention and you're looking for them, that's all I saw was blessing and God winks everywhere I went in that season that was so tough. Instead of feeling lost or helpless or depressed, which is what I was more prone to feel in that time, all I felt was love, gratitude, and just connectedness.
Yeah. And nothing on this earth compares to that.
Absolutely.
There's just nothing like it. You can't manufacture it. You can't replace it. You can't buy it. Psalm 24 says, the sweet, satisfying companionship of the Lord have those who seek him. And he reveals to them his covenant, that sweet, satisfying companionship. There's nothing else like it. The Bible says, taste and see that the Lord is good. And that, oh, man, I love your story. That is just so amazing. The journey of transformation and your health. How has that then changed the way that your business, your marriage, and your mission today? How do you use your story as part of that?
I really was able to create good foundations. I'd started off as a health coach, but I had a lot of emotional and spiritual baggage that was really weighing on me to where it caused inflammation in my body. I always had this stress response to food because although I knew what to eat, I wouldn't always choose that because I was seeking emotional comfort. It was either eat when I'm happy, eat when I'm sad, eat when I'm anxious, or spend money. That was the other way I would deal with a lot of emotional baggage. But I was at odds with myself because I knew what to eat and I just was not making those choices. So then it was this stress cycle constantly. And when I started peeling back the layers of the emotions and growing with the Lord and really fulfilling that need I was searching for in food or things I was trying to buy. When I truly felt love, which I had been searching for my whole life since my dad's suicide, all of that stress and anxiety around food changed. And obviously, I learned a lot of techniques, but even the way I'm able to translate that now to my children, younger children, and how different their lives are growing up, just knowing the peace of the Lord. I say this all the time. My daughter's 4, and she'll ask like, "Oh, can I have a lollipop? I'm hungry." And I always tell her that's not going to solve your hunger problem. And so she wants to know, well, what's going to solve my hunger problem? Like, well, if you're actually hungry, you need some protein. So that's kind of the go-to in our house. She'll get a meat stick and then eat a lollipop right after. And but that's the thing, like I never understood growing up. I grew up in the eat your cinnamon toast crunch for breakfast and be on a sugar high your whole rest of the day and crash and all of that. So it definitely made a whole big difference. After 40, things just were not the same. I was learning more about my body and hormones, gaining weight, and trying to dial in different things. I was adjusting my workouts and ended up pregnant again, surprisingly. It was not what I was planning. I was getting ready to retire from the military. I host retreats in Costa Rica every year. I was getting ready for that. And I was kind of angry that I was getting this baby that was going to throw a wrench in my plans that I wasn't expecting. Because after I had Emma, I felt she fulfilled me. My husband was like, what's one more? So this was really devastating to me initially. I retire from the military, I go to Costa Rica, come home and go to an OB appointment. By this time, I'm so excited about this possibility. I'd had this dream of this new baby, and we were out on adventures together. I just knew that this was part of God's plan. I go to the OB and I'm going to do things differently than before, more on the holistic side. I was seeing a more holistic provider, and she does an ultrasound and she says, I don't think you're as far along as you think you are. I'm not detecting a heartbeat and it's only measuring 5 weeks. And at that time, I was just over 9 weeks. And I knew in that moment it was over. And I cried out to God in anger, like, why did you give me this thing only to take it away? I'm driving in my car, listening to worship music, just bawling, like absolutely like the ugliest cry you could possibly cry because I was crushed. I did not see it coming when I left that appointment. And in anger, I said, why? Why, God? And he said to me, again audibly, like he spoke to me in my kitchen, and he said, I know. I lost my son too. And in that moment, I no longer felt forgotten. I felt pure love, that he knew the pain that I was going through in that moment. And although it stung, I knew it was going to be okay. And it was a few days later at work where the rest of it came to fruition as I already suspected. And 3 months later, I ended up pregnant again. And this time I was fearful because I was excited for another child, but now it was like, well, is it going to end the same way? Am I going to be okay? And every doctor's appointment was riddled with anxiety. I go into the ultrasound for the first time and I think it's going to be the same as it was last time. I'm in the shower one day, stressed about this, having a conversation with the Lord about my stress and anxiety. And I realized that the due date for this baby was the same day as I had miscarried. And in that moment,
Oh,
I felt like it was God's little wink to me to let me know everything was going to be okay. I have now a very healthy 4-month-old who's just wonderful. In that first few months, when I went to the ultrasound and everything looked great, I burst into tears hysterically because I had all this anxiety and fear. And I just had to, again, throughout my entire pregnancy, delivery, and even in motherhood, just really lean into God's perfect plan and that He's right there with us in the thick of it, even when we think maybe He's not listening.
wow. Wow. So Looking back, what would you say to someone who feels that God's calling them to do something that seems impossible or too late?
I always say that God, usually when God's speaking to us, it's something we don't want to do or it feels really uncomfortable. My husband and I were for sure like, we're not having any more kids. We are done with that. We're living our best life. We can't wait till the kids turn 18 and we get our life back. Not really, but you know what I mean. In fact, a lot of the guys in the fire department gave my husband a hard time, like, why would you start all over? You were so close to being done. And now all of our kids, the older kids are out of the house and we started all over. I just turned 45, my husband's 50. So it's like we're in retirement phase with littles, which is a whole new ball game. But I would say that if you are being pushed into something that feels uncomfortable, it's probably going to grow you physically, spiritually, mentally, all the things. If you lean into that, what comes on the other side will blow your mind. You have to
Mm,
trust and be willing to take that first step. The Lord never illuminates the whole path, He only illuminates the next step. You just have to keep
mhm,
taking that next step in faith. If you do, you will be forever changed in the best possible way.
mm. That's so good. Yeah, it reminds me, whenever you're trying to build a muscle, you have to be consistent. You have to do the work. You can't just lay on the couch and expect your muscles to grow. It has to be a challenge. It has to be pushed to its limit. There has to be a breaking down before it can be rebuilt stronger. And that's so indicative of our life in Christ. It's not always easy. Sometimes God asks us to do things, and I love it because He asks us to do things that are impossible for us, because that's where He gets the glory, right? It's not about Susan and Miles and how amazing they were. It's all about like God has been weaving His golden thread through your story. And, if you follow that thread, it's like, oh yeah, God did this. He's amazing. And if He can do it for you, He for sure can do it for others, right? That's the
And
first time I met you. That's what you said. If God could do it for me, He can do it for others. And wow, what an incredible testimony. What an incredible story of faith and perseverance.
yeah, to think I would have missed out on the greatest blessings had I just stayed in bed and ate bonbons.
Yes, this is true. Although it does sound tempting at times, right?
It does. It's definitely the easier approach, but just like with anything, whether it's your fitness, your diet, all of that stuff, you have to get uncomfortable and
Mm,
do things outside of, and you and I have talked about that, like your neurological pathways and creating new pathways to see the benefits and to overcome. And man, it's so hard. And I tell you that all the time. It's so hard, but also so worth it.
yeah. I think about these days in our culture that they're giving out participation awards and all of that, and it's kind of empty. It's like, well, great. I showed up. That's what I did. We become really soft as a culture, I think. COVID was like rocked everybody, right? Because it's
Mhm.
like, what do we do? How do we handle this? And we have like this spawn of like all this anxiety and stress that is snowballing in our nation, in the world, really. From my point of view, it's like we're missing pressing into the hard, pressing into that and really seeking God through those hard times, because you'll just keep spinning out of control unless you invite the maker, the great physician into your story as you did.
True. Yeah, it's funny you talk about the participation ribbons because I always say that was the downfall of our generation. It's so true that the world is filled with anxiety. I find that if I'm able to just shut off the noise, that's what COVID really taught me to get still and quiet. My life was full of music, TV, and just noise constantly. That when I started getting outside in nature, riding my bike, walking, getting quiet, my whole world and the way that I show up as a parent and as a wife was completely transformed, but it took that record scratch. So I will forever be grateful in the chaos that was 2020 because it changed the whole trajectory of my life in the best possible way. But that's because I was very intentional about moving it after having the worst year of my life in 2019.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank God for his faithfulness and goodness.
Amen.
And thank you for sharing your story that, we overcome by the word of our testimony, right? The blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. As we share, God gets the glory. That's part of our story of overcoming is sharing it. That's the final piece, I believe, is sharing that testimony. It's going to be an encouragement to others. Thank you again for being here today and sharing your testimony. How can people get a hold of you if they want to find out more about Susan?
Thank you. I have a podcast, Faith Over Pharma, which kind of is a little bit controversial as it is, but really just leaning into God's faithfulness when we need healing. Also, SusanGladstein.com there's all the ways to get in touch with me, join our community and support if you have an interest in retreats and finding spiritual, physical healing in Costa Rica. I do those every year. So SusanGladstein.com or on Instagram at Coach Susan Gladstein.
Awesome. Thank you again. And hopefully we can partner up and do some retreats. I love that.
Yeah, I would love that too.
All right. Well, thank you again for joining us today and have a blessed rest of your week.
Thanks, you too.
If you've been praying for clarity, strength, and breakthrough in your body, then this book is your next step. Blessed Body isn't just another health and wellness book. It's a Holy Spirit guided blueprint to restore your gut health, renew your mind, align your body with your calling. You'll learn the same system that helped me lose 70 pounds, heal my body, and reclaim my purpose. You'll get all the exact tools and the biblical insight that my clients spend thousands to get, all for just $4.99. Click the link below, grab your copy, start reading and healing today.